Ooh, that looks tasty. Oh, Stay the Hungry Gamer is back with another crowdfunding preview, and today we're talking about Lunar Skyline from Dead Alive Games. And before I get started, please make sure you turn your click on subtitles, because if I make any mistakes in the rules overview, that is where you'll find the corrections. Additionally, I do need to point out that while this is a pretty nice prototype, it is still a prototype and some of the components, and so things are subject to change. I will point out, like this right here, obviously is just a printout, and so just something to keep in mind. And so I just wanted to point that out because it looks like it's a finished copy with this fancy box we have right here. Anyhow, as I said, this is Lunar Skyline, which takes place in the same world as Lunar Rush, just about 50 years later, as the moon has been kind of built up into a place to live. And what this game is this is a relatively simple trick-taking game. And if you are not interested in how this game is played and just want to jump ahead to my final thoughts, then you want to go to the timestamp on the screen right now. For those of us still here, let's talk about how this game is played. Like many trick takers, the first thing that you're going to wind up doing is you are going to make a bid. Now I'm just going to flip a card over at random here for each one, but what this is doing is this is telling everybody how many tricks you think you're going to win. And it's also going to be the way that you get points any given round. So what we have here is we have this player's bid 4, this player's bid 5, and this player's also bid 5. Obviously not possible, so it's going to be a very competitive round. And what you're seeing here is, and as we zoom in a bit, if you look closely, you'll see that every card actually has 2 suits on it, which makes it a little bit different than many trick takers. And how that's going to work will become clear in just a moment. So after everyone has made their bid, whoever goes first will lead the trick. And it gets placed out right there. And then what happens is every other player must follow one of the 2 suits if they can. So for example, this player here has these 3 cards, any of which could be played because they all match at least one of the suits. It's very important they must play one of these if they can. So in this case, we'll just say that they are going to go ahead and play this one right here. Now, because the numbers are the same, whoever is the last person to play the number, that counts as higher. So currently, this player is winning this trick. And then we come to the other player. They've decided that they really, really, really want this trick, so they're going to play the ace. And you'll notice here it says low or high. And so whichever way you have it facing, the center board is what you're picking, so they're picking that as a high. So they are going to take this trick. So they'll take all 3 of the cards, and then they will get to pick which one of these cards is going to be on top. And there's various reasons that you might want to do this. There are these cards just off screen that may affect that, but also, perhaps more importantly, there is what you led with. So they're going to get extra points every round for having water and electricity, and so they might say, well, I have water here, so I'm going to put that on top, and that's going to be worth an extra point for them. And then they would place that right down here. Then we rotate this, and then they would become the lead. And we'll say that they played that. Now, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that later on in the game, when this is played, this player down here only has these 3 cards. And you'll notice it does not match either of the 2 suits. Now, as I said, you have to follow suit if you can, but if you can't, you have the opportunity to do what is called a smuggle. And that means you'll take one of your cards, and it just gets played out sideways when you play. Now this means that it is not possible for you to win the trick. However, at the same time, it also means that this card does not become part of the trick. So if this was the end result, well, this player would have taken that trick like before, and they would take both of those cards, and they would choose which one they want to put on top. In this case, it doesn't matter because they're both the same. But then this player would actually get to take this card, and it counts as winning a trick. So they're now one of the 5 that they bid, and these 2 symbols are on top, and that single card comes down into their resources area right down here. Now, as you're playing through, as soon as you hit your bid, which is, in this case, 5, if I were to win 5 tricks, I can immediately claim one of these cards up here. And what these are additional ways to score points. So for example, this one right here, if I have smuggled 3 or more times, then I would qualify for that right there. Or perhaps we'd play something like this, which is for each ace that I've smuggled, I get +3. And there's a whole bunch of different ones here. For example, extra points for plants, for astronauts, for water, etc., etc., etc. Then at the end of the round, you'll add up your points. And this, like I explained at the beginning, is where you're going to get points for icons that match your initial bid. So this player over here would get 1 point for every trick that they have that shows water. And they would also get 1 point for every trick that they have where the top card shows plant. Then they would get any bonus points for their contract cards here, and then they will lose 2 points for every trick above what their bid was. So if this player had gotten 6 tricks, they would actually lose 2 points for that. In addition to that, one of those tricks that they had, they would have to discard, and they would not gain the benefit of the icons there. There is one more module that can be added into the game, and that are these Skyline cards. And what happens with these are, if you hit your bid, whoever has the highest bid gets to claim any one of these cards that they want. And at the end of the game, it becomes a set collection of how many different types of buildings that you have. But really, that's it. That's how this game works. So what do I like about this game? The first thing is, in the world of trick takers, this is doing something that I find different and interesting. There's been a little bit of kind of a renaissance of trick takers in the past couple of years where you get a lot of just interesting things being done. I think about games like Ghosts of Christmas. I think about games like Lunar, which I actually have a video coming out with in a few weeks. Fox in the Forest Duet, Jekyll vs. Hyde. All these games are taking trick taking and doing something interesting. And Lunar Skyline is doing that as well, and doing something that I haven't encountered before, and that is this idea that you have 2 suits for each different card. And I really like that. I like the way that works, but that combined with the idea that you have to follow, but if you can't follow, you're actually getting some kind of bonus because you're smuggling a single card. But of course, by smuggling a single card, you might be damaging your own bid. Speaking of the bids, I like the way the bidding works and the way it turns into points. I like the way that, yes, you need to hit your target, because by hitting your target, you're going to get one of those bonus contracts, which is going to be extra points, which is going to be potentially how you're going to win the game later on. But at the same time, you have to make that choice of which card to bid as you're following, especially when you think you're going to win. Because if you think you're going to win, you want to get one that's going to match both symbols, and then that kind of becomes a question of what do you play. Or maybe there's a card already out there that matches both symbols, so maybe you want to try to do something that maybe seems like is not the best play, but by playing that card, you're going to have the symbols that you need. It adds a layer of decision as you're trying to figure out what card to play next. I also appreciate that because you must follow, and if you can't follow, it's a simple smuggle action. I like that that actually slows down any of the potential hard decisions, because it's very simple. If you can follow, you must follow. If you can't follow, you're going to pick whatever is best for you, and you're going to put that away. And I like the way that works. And then finally, I also appreciate that there is a real value in meeting your bid quickly. And then, of course, after you meet that bid quickly, you want to kind of slow your roll because you don't want to lose points for going over the bid number that you made. And so those contracts that you immediately take really, I think, makes for an interesting dynamic of the game. And again, keeps you in it and keeps you thinking and keeps you trying to plan one step ahead. I really like the way that works. And finally, I'll say, I like the way there's that optional module, the set collection you can add on at the end of the entire round that you get to do. It just adds a really kind of an interesting dynamic that you can add to the game that just spices up just a little bit. So what are my quibbles with the game? Well, the first thing is, at the end of the day, this is just a simple trick taker, right? And that is not a bad thing. And one of the things that I've talked about a little more recently is when you're dealing with a simpler game, this is a simpler game, it can be sometimes hard to critique it because it does what it does, and it does what it does well, but since there isn't much else going on, it can be hard to offer up a critique. And so that in itself kind of is becoming the critique here, is that this is mostly, it's just a trick taker. And if you like trick takers, you're either into that 2-suit thing that's going on, or you are not. And I think that is the crux of where this game lies. I think because of the double suit thing, it really kind of changes up the idea of following and the idea of a trump suit and all of those things that a lot of people love about trick takers, and it kind of throws that out the window. So if that's not what you're looking for, if this sounds like, how dare you change my trick taker, it's got to be one shoot. If you're the type of person that feels like that, then this is definitely not a game for you. Also, if you're looking for something along the line of arcs from Leader Games, which is using trick taking kind of as part of a mechanic of a bigger thing, obviously this is not either. This is a simple, quick, fast trick taker that has a twist, but I think that twist is one that is particularly worthy if you're into trick takers. So there you have it, folks. As always, if I made any mistakes in the rules overview, please let me know in the comments with the timestamp so I can get that in the Klingon subtitles. If you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share, maybe become a channel member. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.